These dudes on the corners, posted up like some gargoyles, have been watching this area for a long, long, long time. And if I zoom out and zoom back in, you can see that they still watching me. It always feels like somebody's watching you, and I'm not the only one. Oh. This is Hope Haven in Marrero, Louisiana. Hope Haven was a place that was here when I was born. It was here when my father was born, and my father is from Marrero, Louisiana. And this place has a lot of uncanny stories that are connected to it, and I have some that are personally connected to my family, specifically my brother, who's no longer with us today. And I want to show you behind me, they actually have it all fenced off. But this place used to house, in the early days, orphaned or fostered children or troubled youth, boys and girls. And I'm going to show you right across from me. I'm going to turn around with the camera so you can see the building behind us. As I pan out and pan around behind us in the distance back there, you can see where my, right behind the oak tree back there, that's more, buildings that were all built by this one priest. My dad used to tell me the stories that the old priest who built these buildings, he built these buildings without the proper authority, and he didn't get the proper help, so he had to use material that wasn't too great. The reason I bring up the actual materials that were used is because often these places at Hope Haven, Louisiana were condemned. And it's one of the only historical sites. I think they recently made it a historical site on the west bank of New Orleans in Jefferson Parish, where they actually have historical sites. Well, the priests used materials that was from Spain. They used this, if you look at all the buildings, I'm going to show you some more buildings. It was used this like chalk-like material that they built all these buildings on, and over the years this chalk-like material that they used to plaster these buildings, and in the inside as well, because it's plastered walls all throughout, it's crumbling and falling apart because it was poor quality material. And it's such a tragedy because these buildings are so beautiful. When I was growing up, we used to come here for the haunted houses, and I'm going to show you what buildings had haunted houses, and some buildings housed girls. And when I was growing up, often people would say, if you get in trouble, you're going to be sent to Hope Haven. And there were stories for little kids about Hope Haven that made them very, very scared to go. As you can see behind me, there's a fence now. Back when we were growing up, there wasn't no fence. And your parents could pull you right up. My aunt used to tell me that she would tell me, my brother, my cousins, that if we got in trouble, they would send us here and we would get super scared. And she would drive here with me and my brother and my cousins, and we would all start crying because we were so fearful about the horror stories that came out, what was happening to the youth who was sent here, the boys and girls. See, it started out as a good thing. And the father, the priest who originally built Hope Haven in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, and Marrero, Louisiana, he built it with good intentions. But as you know, all things that have good intentions eventually become very wicked and evil to the core if they don't remain checked by proper checks and balances, such as a person like the original priest who built this place. He had a good heart. He wanted to help the orphaned. But later on, abuse began to occur, and there's no shortage of stories on abuse that happened at this building or these buildings all around me. As you can see, there's no shortage of them. Oh, how it makes me wonder, why are those stone statues still watching us today? Look right there. Look how eerie and creepy that looks as I zoom in. Look at that face. Imagine being a young boy or a young girl, being in this place and being scared. And every day when you came out here, if you were lucky enough to come on the yard, you had that face watching you. Some say that back when I was growing up, you see those windows that are now boarded up? That those windows would have the faces of the children who were tortured here, staring out into the distance, pleading for someone to come help them from those windows. You wonder why now those windows are boarded up. Why now no one can see what's inside. But I wonder if there are lost souls in there that can still see past those boards and they're still crying for help, even now, as the statues still hauntingly watch. Hope Haven, Louisiana. This is a story. You know, every Catholic church and Catholic cathedral has some kind of twisted history connected to it, unfortunately. We know that exorcisms and casting outs of demons happened often and early in the early Catholic Church. And we look at this old Catholic building where the history says that the original priest who built this was a good man. But look at the broken and condemned building behind me. Look at those windows. Are they the original glass that was there when this place was first built? I don't know. But what poor boy or girl might tell a different story if they were here today? It's hard to say. I've even heard that sometimes the blood of some of the kids who were hurt and harmed here still travel underneath these buildings in the sewage system or the vents that are below this place. And I just stood upon one just now. Here it is, a vent. I wonder if deep within the crevice, and I'm not talking about some horror movie clown, but I'm talking about something much worse, the blood of orphans. I wonder if it still cries from beneath these sewage systems, beneath this old Catholic building. It's funny how as we go on, things begin to change, including the people who come here. When this place was built, there was nothing that existed called a vape. It was just priests smoking cigars. Now people come here to hang out and smoke their vape. Teenagers, they have no clue what really happened here. But this place was a big deal. It was a very big deal. And if you was to let someone like my brother tell you his story on what he experienced here, because my brother has more story connections here than I do. You know, mine are remembering going to the haunted house in that building right there. It's funny that they would turn a building that possibly abused orphans into a haunted house. That in itself is kind of uncanny and scary, right? And the place across from us too, because it's a big property. But behind me in this building that I'm standing, you can see the old terracotta roofs and this little porch right here. You know, you don't know what went on, but my brother was actually here as a juvenile. My brother was in LTI, which is Louisiana Training Institution, but he was also here as well because they didn't have enough room in LTI originally, so they put him here to try to house him here for a little while. And it was here that he experienced some, you know, a bunch of fights. They were fist fighting in here. And I'm going to show you the building where the boys' dormitory was. And actually, while my brother was here, he met someone. He met a girlfriend who was in the female dormitory, which is across the street behind me. But I'm going to go up to the building right now. I'm going to turn this camera around. This is the building where my brother did some times in the boys' home. This actual whole building was housed for boys. And there was a boys' dormitory. We used to come here and sit at underneath these oak trees and bring my brother with my mom. We'd bring him some lunch and some Popeyes or some McDonald's, and we'd hang out and talk for a little while. But he was in here, and a lot of the kids, the boys that went here for a group home, eventually wound up in Louisiana Training Institution, which is LTI. But they also wound up going to adult prison. Some of them, dare say, aren't even alive, including my brother. But the uncanny thing is, my brother wasn't just here for the boys' home, but as a man and as a grown man who tried to disconnect himself from the early childhood memories of being in a boys' home. He was also homeless here. He came here because this is abandoned property, because like I said, the building itself is dilapidated and it's run down, but also the material that was used to build it is falling apart. So these places need to be restructured. And my brother was homeless, and he actually lived here homeless. He slept in these buildings. I had to come find him a couple times. This is the door behind me that you would go in to the boys' dormitory when it was a boys' home. And my brother would come out of this dorm here, and he would show us his bunk area. And a lot of the kids, like I said, I knew some of them. They were troubled youth. There was a lot of troubled youth here. And I'm sure this resonates no matter where you're at in life, is that where you're from, there's a boys' home that you remember your friends possibly going to, and maybe you went to. And that's just the history of Hope Haven. It's shrouded in mystery, and it's shrouded in a lot of secrecy probably too, but it's also shrouded in a good heart, because the priest who built this place, I've never heard anything bad about him. It wasn't until later when the nuns got hold of this place, and you know, them nuns were scary, man. They said they would whip the kids, you know. And you know, listen, I don't know what did and didn't happen, but I can only tell you about the echoes of the rumors I heard as a kid that made me fearful as a child to come here. It's crazy that I was fearful to come here, but I still committed crime as a young man and went to prison, where it's much more frightful than here. But this was a boys' home, and in prison you were getting sexually assaulted. But don't think that in these boys' homes these young men and young women weren't sexually assaulted. I'm gonna pan my camera around. As you can see in the distance, I'm gonna zoom in. That building there is the main building where they had the church, right? It's across the street from where I'm at, and next to that building, behind that building, is where my brother actually stayed, and he where the girls' home was. As you can see, that truck's pulling out. That's a maintenance man, because the parish actually bought this place, Hope Haven, to make it into a landmark place. It's the only place on the West Bank in Marrero that they said is, you know, going to be a historical, you know, place in the parish. I'm going to put a picture of my brother Matt right here, and we're going to come back to Hope Haven again. This isn't going to be my last stop here. I just wanted to start off, and I wanted to do a different story today, a different take today, and I felt like we would begin the delving into of Hope Haven. And I'll dig up more information, and I'll try to get more historically accurate when it comes to Hope Haven. But I'm telling you, the echoes of the fear that was used to intimidate us as a child or children, that kept us from wanting to get in trouble about this place. You know, you have usually historical facts, and you also have things like, you know what I mean, just the rumors, the stuff that kept you afraid, you know. And I'm going to come here again and tell the stories about my brother. And I just wanted to connect here because it's making me think about my brother. I miss my brother. I love my brother. He's gone. And you know what's also crazy? I actually did roofing work on some of these buildings. My dad was a roofer in this area before roofing became popular with all these hurricanes. And he was one of the main roofers in the entire West Bank area. He re-roofed neighborhoods 2 and 3 times over. And we did a lot of roofing work on these buildings, me and my father, as a young man. I remember being on top of these roofs with my dad, helping him, handing him tools, you know, on the very top of these buildings. You see it there behind me. And then the ones all the way across the street over there, you know, you see them. And I was on top of a lot of those buildings doing roofing work. But my brother was homeless here, as well as a child in the boys' home. Man, give me a like and subscribe to the Pen and the Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube, where you get stuff like this. Man, share in the comments if you know anybody who's in a boys or girls home, and any experiences that they had, or any abuse that you know someone suffered at the hands of the Catholic Church. We know the Catholic Church has been exposed a lot. And look, Catholic Church, I'm not here to vilify the Catholic Church. They do a lot of good things, but they also hid a lot of bad things. And that's the problem. When you hide stuff, it comes back to haunt you. And it should, because you don't want to abuse anybody, you know. But I also don't want to ignore the fact that the Catholic Church did good stuff as well, you know. But anyway, when you hide stuff and you go under with it, that's the reputation that you get, you know. But thanks for watching the Pen and the Shank, man. Let's get this. Rest in peace, my brother Matt.